Hello, everyone. My name is Cash Miller. I'm the host of Emerging Brands Franchises on the Rise, CEO of Titan Media Works. We do podcast production. Today, we're going to be talking about restoration. There's a lot of businesses that fall into the home services category. They do, think fire, mold, remediation, say there's all sorts of surprises that can happen and damage that can be done to your home. And so restoration businesses are a big thing. And today I've got with me Patrick Sommer. He's with Veterans Restoration. And this is like it sounds, it's got the veteran in there. It's a business that leans into and is run by military veterans, which it's for franchising. That's been a big thing over the last few years, where there's a lot of opportunities for veterans to get involved in business. Franchises are a great way to do it because you have established structures, and experienced business owners that you can work with. So if you're a veteran out there, this show is going to be really important for you to listen to. Patrick, great to have you on. Tell us about yourself, because you've got a lengthy career in franchising, but also Veterans Restoration. Why does Veterans Restoration exist?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Cash. So like you mentioned, I've been in franchising for a while. Also a military veteran myself. Spent 4 years on active duty in the Army. Got out and worked in a couple of different corporate roles before finding my way into franchising. And during all of my experience in franchising, whether it was automotive, home service, restaurants, got to see a lot of organizations that maybe didn't intentionally pursue veterans, but found veterans that came into their franchise system. And in my experience, they always excelled. The model, in many ways, and it took a while for me to realize this, has a lot of similarities of the military experience to the franchise experience. That you sign an agreement, you go through initial training, and then you have manuals and SOPs, and you have to go out and execute. So not something I expected to see, but as I saw veterans within these different organizations, really clicked that, hey, there's something similar here. And I think for a lot of veterans, it's an opportunity that they don't really see or expect getting out. I know for me in my transition, I was thinking like the Army of, well, I've led people, so I'm going to get a job where I lead people again, and I'm going to be in operations and just manage this. Yeah. And the idea of entrepreneurship wasn't in my head. So that's definitely one of our goals here with Veterans Restoration, is to help educate veterans on the opportunities that are out there for them. Our founder is also another Army veteran. He served, got out, and worked in the restoration industry, and realized that he could go out there and had the confidence at that point to do it on his own. So he started a company in Hagerstown, Maryland, grew it very quickly from a few $100,000 to over $2 million in sales, and then said, I want to extend this opportunity to other people to follow their dreams of becoming entrepreneurs. So our name, Veterans Restoration, we're definitely a veteran-run business. We're not exclusive to veterans when it comes to the opportunity. For us, it's really about finding people that share those same values. And I think a lot of that ties into restoration as well. That I've seen franchise owners that are veterans and non-veterans succeed in lots of different businesses, but restoration specifically, has a lot of similarities as well to military, that you're serving your community. We're not selling a product, a unnecessary service. Our customer is in a crisis. We're dealing with people that their home is flooded, they've had a fire, there's been a natural disaster.
Yeah.
And we come in and help them restore their property and get their life back together.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of similarities to the military, because the military does so many things, whether it's active duty people, the National Guard. The National Guard, of course, is there. If it's not wartime, whenever they're called up, it's some sort of natural disaster. That's that is part of their mission. So you end up with a lot of very similar circumstances. And restoration, you're right, because like I say, it's usually some sort of disaster is why you're needed. And those disasters can happen for homeowners at any time. You don't necessarily need a hurricane to hit or anything like that to have some sort of disaster. And I think from the standpoint, I know a lot of corporations, are, trying to recruit veterans. A lot of them have had really good initiatives, but you're still going to work for somebody else. The beauty of a franchise is there's still familiarity with structure, and that's what the military, provides, is structure. And I think, from a franchise, like perspective, and like a military's perspective, I know when I got out of the Army, yeah, business opportunities are not something that are well represented, when you're transitioning. I think that's something that, needs to change, to allow for franchisors to potentially present, at different, military posts and things like that, and know that there's just a little bit bigger world. They do put on like career fairs and things like that, but it's not quite the same. So it's really good every time, you get another franchise, that is making opportunities for veterans, and there's quite a few of them out there, but restoration's unique. And it's also, in the case of working with other veterans, is really cool because there's community there.
For sure. And part of that too is, in terms of that being in that position of the veteran getting out, or in that transition, there's a lot of franchises that are out there, and ones that I've worked for, that the cost of entry really isn't feasible for a lot of veterans. If you're, you serve 5, 10, 15, 20 years, 500,000 investment when you're getting out of your career might not be feasible. But I think for us and others in the home service space, it's definitely something that can, and an option that we really want to help get out there to people, so they know it's something they can do. Or for those people that served in the military and have been out for a period of time in corporate America, and maybe for some the military wasn't what they thought it would be, and corporate America is not what they thought it would be, then here's a third option where you're in more control, which in the military you certainly don't have much control over your personal future and where your career is going. And I think there's many that are seeking that.
Yeah. So let's talk veterans restoration. So what is the business model itself? And I know you guys are newer to franchising, so it's early in that journey. What can, franchisees expect? Like, say, what's the business model? What is it going to be like if they were to become a franchise, from a training perspective? Yeah. Things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think for home services, restoration specifically, it's very specific, that you're working with companies, so you're not dealing, your client that you're servicing is the homeowner, but that's usually not who you're billing, compared to roofing or home painting or home cleaning. So there's some big differences there. The biggest benefit that I see is you're never competing over price. If you go in and you give somebody a bid, give them a 20 grand, and they call another company and they say 15, you lost that job. With restoration, all the pricing is mostly fixed by a software system that goes through the insurance company. So you go out to a job, and us and every one of our competitors are going to quote that the same. So the way you get business isn't competing over price, it's the level of provide. And when you look at more the insurance company as your customer, what they care about is your service that you're going to provide to their client, and how quickly you're going to. So restoration is a 24-hour business. I always make sure to tell people that if that's not what you're looking for, then this is not the right fit. So with restoration, you're obviously dealing with a 24-hour business. Pipes don't burst between 9 to 5. They can burst at any hour. Natural disasters happen on weekdays and weekends. But there's a huge opportunity there, I think, for veterans and other people that are willing and want a business where they can go hustle. There's a huge opportunity there. And I know in my experience, I had water damage in my home a few years ago. It was Easter Sunday, and I was another restoration company at the time. So I called the local owner. They had a guy come out at 9:00 at night on Easter Sunday. They were in my house for the next 4 days. The final day I was talking to them, and they said, well, we're trying to wrap up early today because we're doing a job in Asheville, North Carolina. That's about 2 hours away from me. I said, I can't believe you guys are going all the way to Asheville for a job. I said, well, it's a $60,000 job. So
Hmm.
there's huge jobs and a lot of money to be made in restoration. But if somebody's looking for, I want my doors to be open from 9 to 5, then this isn't that type of
Yeah.
business. But
Yeah. So this is a hands-on owner opportunity. It's not something that's going to work really well from a semi-absentee or certainly an absentee. Yeah, unless you're hiring potentially someone with a lot of experience to run it for you.
yeah, I would say it could be. It certainly changes the investment. You could go out and hire a manager that has experience. The other piece that I was going to touch on is there certifications that are required. Yeah, you
Yeah.
can't just go to an insurance company and say, I want to go do mold work tomorrow. You need
Mm.
to get certified through the IICRC, whether it's mold, water, fire, biohazard, all the different services that we provide. Either the owner or someone on their team has to have those certifications to go to the job. So if somebody was looking at a more semi-absentee or executive owner model, you can hire that person. But yeah, I would say like any business, if you want to be more hands off, then you're spending the money to have the person there who's hands on.
Yeah, sure. I say plus it's going to, lessen what you can make from that business if you're, you know, also, because you're going to pay a manager, to run it. And I would think that it could be a little difficult to find those managers because all the good ones are probably running their own businesses, you know,
Yeah, it depends. I think, at least from what I've seen, I've worked for a few different home service franchises. What I like about restoration, it is a little bit more specific. Where I worked for a cleaning company, a painting franchise.
mm,
Those employees, they might be working in a fast food restaurant one day and then cleaning homes the next, and then jumping to something else. Where with rest is a little bit more of a trade, like being a plumber, that
yeah,
you're going to get certified, and most of those people are going to stay in that track. And ideally, you want to have kind of a tiers of employees, that you can have that junior person that doesn't have any certification, and he's probably going to be lugging all the equipment from the van into the house.
yeah,
Your technician who's been in the industry and has some of the certifications, and that person's goal is usually to work their way up to manager level, and whether that's in hopefully within your franchise, or if not. But there is a barrier of entry sometimes for those employees to start their own business, because now they need to go out and purchase all the equipment instead
hmm.
of just buying it. So
So,
some differences there, but some similarities to what you said.
so on each episode, I like to ask the question about staffing because I talk to a lot of different business models, and the amount of staff you need, especially when you're first starting, is going to vary. So what is, and I've personally got, different experience having worked with other home service type businesses through my own career. Yeah. And it can really vary. So what does staffing for a restoration business look like? Like, like right out the gate, how do you find these employees? And what kind of experience do you need to be looking for?
Yeah, so I would say the first part of that, and this is something that we want to make clear to owners, is there's two sides to this business. And to be successful as an owner in restoration, you can do both, but you're not going to scale very quickly. So the first is your operation side of getting those certifications. You're going out on jobs, you know how to do moisture readings, you know how to use the equipment to get the property restored as quickly as possible.
Mm-hmm.
The other side is the business development. So we obviously do advertising online, on SEO and things like that. But a lot of this work comes directly from insurance agents and carriers. So owners need to be going out and building relationships with local insurance companies. So for us, we tell owners they should focus on one of those areas depending on what their strengths are. If there's somebody who wants
Yeah.
to be the face of the business out in the community, then go out and hire a technician with some experience. We still want that owner to know how to work and be able to website. But if you have an owner that's they're really hands-on, they like all the technology and tools and getting dirty, all right, well, go hire a sales or business development person,
Yeah.
and you can focus on that. And I would say in both, so you're starting with one employee focused on one side of the business. And then you're probably starting with one junior technician as well. So I'd say most people can probably get this going with just 2 employees. It certainly has been done as a man and just say I'm going to do everything, but the reality is you're not going to scale very well in that type of market.
Yeah. Okay, so say you end up landing that first job, and of course it's going to depend on the size of the job itself, but how do you go, when I say, well, what does the trajectory look like a little bit? Because now I got the first job and then I get a few more jobs. So from a standpoint of how do you get that one done? And then, are you scaling up your crews over time? Are you looking to sub some of the work out or partner up so you can get things done? Because it can be, I would imagine the work fluctuates a little bit, especially in the early stages.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that, we're very flexible on. There is a lot of different work you can do that falls under the umbrella of restoration. And we're not going to require you to do all of it. It's more about how you want to take your business. Everyone's going to do water damage. That's the majority of the business in the industry. Those are great, easy jobs. Fire and smoke kind of falls behind that. Mold, everybody's probably going to do all of those. And again, you have to get those certifications. So a lot of owners will say, we're just going to get the water and mold and fire damage certifications first, and I'll start my business there.
Okay.
Biohazard is an interesting one that, there are some owners that just say, I see how much money I can make doing that, but I'm not comfortable and I'm not going to ask my employees to go do crime scene cleanup. We understand that.
Yeah.
There are other people that see the dollars behind it and say, well, hey, I'll pay my employees extra or I'll go out and do that job, but there's a need there. And then the last one, kind of similar but different, is reconstruction. Some owners will just say, hey, I have this water damage job. This is going to be a 4 or 5 day job. Quick, easy, in and out, very low labor because you're just running equipment for 72 hours. You don't need somebody sitting there watching it. Yeah. There might be another $10,000 in reconstruction work. Some owners will say that's going to take 2 or 3 weeks. It's much more labor. It's a different customer experience there that you're going in, replacing drywall and painting, and now exactly right. So again, we don't require somebody to do all of that. Obviously, the more services that you offer, the higher your revenue opportunity is. So it's really up to the owner where they want to take that business. But back to your question, most are going to start with just, hey, and let's do some easy jobs. And most insurance companies are going to do that. That you go knocking on an insurance company's door, it's not like they do any restoration companies. But you build that relationship, they're going to say, all right, well, let's try out veterans restoration. They're probably not going to give you a $150,000 job for your first job.
Right.
So it's building that relationship with them as well, and kind of easing into the business and scaling from there.
Yeah. So, it's piece by piece. Is there any particular of those services that you mentioned from a profitability standpoint? Just are there ones that have better margins essentially whenever you do a job?
There are, and it's hard to say what the exact amount is, because you can have water damage that changes depending on home and it needs. But the margins typically are going to be higher on that remediation of fixing the problem. Reconstruction might be a higher ticket, so you're increasing your revenue, but possibly lower margins there. The other benefit, going back to the scaling, you need to add technicians. But as you scale, you're also adding equipment. And that's what people really like about this business is you can have one team that's working 5 jobs at one time because they're just setting up that equipment to dry out the property. Yeah. And then they can go set up the equipment at another property, then another, and then every day they're checking on that. There's obviously a little bit of work on the front end and back end, but when that machine is out there or machines are running in the home, you're billing that insurance company for the day that machine is running. You're not billing for the hour that you were there checking on it. So,
okay. So that helps from a staffing perspective too, because absolutely. You may have to buy more equipment over time if you're handling more jobs, but restoration. And I had the same, years ago, actually I've had it twice, 2 different times happen, where one was an outside faucet and something busted and flooded a front room. And then another one where the water heater, which is for some stupid reason on our second floor, decided to bust and I had water coming through the ceiling. And both times the first thing you have to do is dry it out. So you've got to find somebody, get the equipment out there. And yeah, we had fans in our living room drying out the carpet for, I think it was, I don't know, 4 days or something like that. So restoration companies are able to bill the insurance, when that, for the use of that equipment, to do that, that job before they actually get to, if there's any actual restoration, as far as damage done that needs to be repaired. And then you could potentially, end up doing that work too.
Yeah. So and again, it will vary depending on the insurance company, but there are times where the insurance company might say, hey, the remediation work of this property, this will be $5,000. The reconstruction, because we have to replace this much flooring and this much drywall and whatever else that can't be restored, that might be $10,000. Some owners might just say, hey, I just want to do the remediation. I don't want to deal with the labor of putting in floors. So it's up to you. And some insurance companies are just different. If they might want to split it up, they might prefer having one single point of contact for the entire claim.
Yeah. Now, early on, you mentioned that they essentially use a central estimating system. Yeah. So everybody's stuck kind of charging the same thing. It doesn't matter as much. So customer service, attentiveness, all of those things are really going to come into play. But I'm curious about that central system. Yeah. How long has that been? I assume it's been in place for a long time. So
it has, and it's constantly updating. So it's a product called Xactimate. So it's got input from the restoration industry as well as the insurance companies. So it's not like the insurance companies are using it to just drive down pricing.
Okay.
Everybody's working together to say, hey, this is what fair pricing is based on the economy. But what's going to happen to either company or insurance adjuster is going to go in and figure out what the scope of work is. That, hey, this requires dehumidifiers. So if you go in and you end up using 5, you're not going to be able to bill for that 5th, because this is what was in the quote. But it eliminates that price war that you might have with competitors. And for the insurance companies, again, they don't want to waste 5 days going through bids. They want a happy customer as a homeowner. So they say, hey, we trust these guys are going to get on this job as quickly as possible. They're going to be the best at restoring your property. You can trust Veterans Restoration to take care of you.
Huh. Yeah, I know often, in dealing with car repairs and things, like if you get in an accident, something like that, you go talk to the agent, they say, hey, these are the ones that you should be using. We'll pay these others, but these are the ones we recommend because they're basically already in our system. And, and they are, and you never think about it when you're on the consumer side, but they are doing the estimate. And then the company is saying, okay, we agree. We're going to, do it for that price. Otherwise they're not going to get the work from the insurance company essentially.
And in terms of that job coming in, it can vary. There will be times, if you look at it from the homeowner's perspective, if you wake up in the morning and you walk downstairs and there's an inch of water on your floor, some people, their first reaction is, I'm going to call my insurance company and find out what I do. That insurance say, hey, we're going to, a company is going to reach out to you and shortly, and they'll call us and we reach out to the homeowner. Other people are just going to say, there's an inch of water on the floor. I'm going to pull out my smartphone and go on Google. And I'll deal with the insurance side of it later. So even in that case, if it's a homeowner, the billing is typically still going through the insurance company. But sometimes we do get homeowners that reach out directly because they're in crisis. They're just thinking,
my inclination would be find a restoration company and deal with the insurance second, because I'm still looking at inch and as long as that water's there, I'm thinking the damage is getting worse.
And sometimes too, it's people who call a plumber. So that's the other component of business development, is just other referral sources. If we show up to a job and there's still an active leak, we're not there to stop a plumbing leak. But sometimes people will call that plumber and then go, well, what do I do now? So you're also building a network with plumbers, with roofers, with HVAC companies, all these people that are in a home in areas that are going to create restoration work that we would service.
Yeah, so that makes it, makes a lot of sense. Like I say, the bigger your network, more successful you can be, because those people are finding work and they're going to run into situations, and it's stuff that they don't handle. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense. What does it cost to get this kind of, like, what's your franchise cost structure breakdown? If somebody's looking to buy a franchise, what does it cost them as far as the investment, and then where's that money kind of going, as far as a breakdown?
Yeah. Our total investment range is going to be 94 to 194,000. Our life
Okay, pick that back up. Yeah, it
Yep.
froze again.
Okay. So our total initial investment range is going to be 94 to 194,000. 50,000 of that is our initial franchise fee. We do have a 25% veterans discount on that. So that gets you all of the rights to operate the business, the training, and also your territory, which from what I've seen in research, we have the largest territory for a restoration company. Most are between 100 and 300,000 in population for a territory. The smallest I've seen is 50,000. Ours is 500,000. Yeah, so we want to
Oh,
make
yeah.
sure that we're giving people a large area to do this business in, because we know that you're going to get jobs, that are coming in from insurance companies that the insurance company doesn't want to hear, oh, I can't take that job because it's one zip code
Right.
outside of my territory.
Sure.
So after that, the other kind of big cost is the equipment. So there are options to lease equipment or payment plans available if you're not going to do a loan for the total investment, your vehicle, and then your working capital to launch the business, your big expenses, and then obviously you have small things like travel to come to training, some
Mhm.
initial marketing, things like that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this has been great. Like, restoration is definitely a booming business. Because every homeowner, I'm sure, has experienced something once or twice. That's the great thing about home ownership, right? Yeah, the stuff that pops up. How would people, if they want to inquire about owning a franchise, where should they go, or how should they get a hold of you?
Absolutely. They can find me on LinkedIn, Patrick Sommer at veteransemergencyrestoration.com, or go to our website, veteransrestorationfranchise.com.
Okay, this has been another great episode. My name's Cash Miller. I'm the host of Emerging Brands Franchises on the Rise. We've been talking restoration today. Also, the CEO of Titan Media Works. We do podcast production. And thank you for joining us. We'll see you on the next episode.